Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I am Arif and I welcome you all in today's session. To access the notebook for today's session, you can access course page on my personal website arif.me. You can click the appropriate link under this lecture resource column over here to view the notebook file in NB Viewer and run it online in Binder. Well, the other way is to download the notebook file from the course GitHub account Arif and all notebooks for this course are housed in the public data science repository over here. Well, this is the Jupyter Notebook dashboard running locally on my machine at port 8888, and here is the notebook for lecture number 3.22 of the third module, Python Programming for Data Scientists, for the course titled Tools and Techniques for Data Science. Well, today is our second session on data visualization, and during exploratory data analysis, this data visualization help us identify outliers, help in making out comparisons, identifying hidden trends in data, and so on. In the last session, other than having an overview of different types of charts, we have seen in detail the step-by-step construction or design of the most basic type of chart, that is the line chart, for the exports of a company, Lahore Chemical Industries. If you have not seen that session, my dear students, I strongly recommend that you should watch that session first and then fall back to this one. Anyways, this is the learning agenda for today's session. First, we will have a quick recap of the anatomy of a figure and the matplotlib code for drawing the line chart that we have done in the previous session. Then we will study two more new charts in today's session, bar plot and the scatter plot, inshallah. Okay, so first of all, let's have a quick recap about the anatomy of a figure. This is a figure object marked in this red box. This is like a canvas. Everything that we want to draw will be on this canvas. Figure object can contain multiple axis objects. Axis object is marked by a blue box in this figure. This is where the data will appear. And right now this figure object has only one axis object. And it may contain more than one as well. Well, my dear friends, every axis object normally has further two axis objects, axis with an I. The x-axis object and the y-axis object, as shown in green over here. And finally, we have the artist shown over here, which is a further collection of objects like the title, the legend, the grid you can see over here. The major and the minor ticks along the x as well as the y-axis, the x-axis label, the y-axis label, the spines, and of course the lines within the graph, markers, and so on. Before proceeding any further, since matplotlib do not come pre-packaged with Python, so we need to download and install matplotlib if you have not done so in the previous session. Well, right now the matplotlib version is 3.4.3, which is running inside my Jupyter notebook right now. In the last session, we have seen that a line chart or a line graph is actually a type of chart that displays information as a series of data points called markers, and which are connected by straight line segments. A line chart is often used to visualize the trend in data over interval of time. So this is the code that we wrote last time for drawing a line chart step by step. So first of all, we have imported the pyplot module of matplotlib as PLT, and we have also imported numpy. The next three lines over here are actually the dataset. Lahore Chemical Industries has given us their last 12-year chemical and medicine exports in million US dollars. and they wanted us to plot these values against these 12 years from 2010 to 2021. In the last session, my dear students, we discussed both the stateful as well as the stateless approach. And this code right now refers to the stateless approach, also known as the object-oriented approach, in which we have over here created uh, the figure object by calling the figure method of pyplot. Then we have called the add underscore subplot method on this newly created figure object, uh, which will return the axis object. My dear students, over here we have passed no argument to add underscore subplot method. We can pass three integer arguments: the number of rows, the number of columns, and the index, having the default values of 1, 1, 1, specifying the grid and position of this axis on the grid. I think we have touched this in the previous session. Anyway, okay, so on this returned axis object AX, we have called this plot method, and we have called it twice. Uh, this is to create two line plots. One line plot showing the chemical exports, and the other line chart showing the medicine exports. Other than giving labels to these two lines, we have further used the appropriate markers, color of the lines, line style, and line width as well. Then we have used the set underscore x label and set underscore y label methods of the axis object to add appropriate labels to the x-axis and y-axis. The next four lines use the set underscore x ticks and set underscore y ticks method of axis object to modify the ticks as per our requirement. My dear students, although Matplotlib do set the x ticks and the y ticks implicitly as well, seeing the data. And finally, over here we have set the title and the legends using the legend method of pyplot module. And optionally, you can show the grid and call the plt dot tight layout method to ensure that none of the information of the graph is lost by giving appropriate padding to different components of this graph. And finally, we have called the show method, which is required for not required for if you are running your code inside the Jupyter notebook. However, if you are using some code editor, you need to call this method. Okay, so let's run it. Great. So this was what we did in the last session. You can see the two different types of lines with different styles of markers: the grid, the x-axis label, the y-axis label, the title, and the legend. And these two lines show the exports of the Lahore chemical industries, the chemical exports and the medicine exports. Great. Okay, so let us start now with another very basic example of a bar plot. Okay, so a bar plot that draw a bar chart that represent the marks of 6 students in the subject of English. My dear students, before I discuss this code, remember a bar plot or bar chart is a very common type of plot like the line graph that is used when we want to compare given numeric values on different categories. It shows relationship between a numerical variable and a categorical variable. Right now, the students Hadid, Maz, Mujahid, these are the categorical variables, and these are the numerical variables containing the marks of those students in English. Well, you can create a bar graph using the bar method, and these are the 3 arguments. Soon we will see over here. Let me discuss the code. So this is the dataset, a very basic dataset that we have created within our Jupyter notebook. We can always create graphs by reading the dataset from CSV files. Soon we will see an example of that as well. Anyway, right now over here you see that we have created the figure object, and then the axis object. We have created a single axis by calling the add subplot method of the figure object. And once we have the axis object, we have called this bar method on it. And instead of calling the uh, line method, we have called the bar method. Rather, the plot method. The plot method was used to create the line chart, and the bar method is used to create a bar chart. Okay. So we have passed three arguments to this method. First of all, the x coordinates of the bar, which in this case are the student names. Then we have the height argument that specifies the height of the bar. In this case, these will be the marks of a particular student in this subject English, let's suppose. And then we have the width argument that specifies the width of the bar, and the default value of this is zero point 0.8, and I've just mentioned it. If you don't mention it, it will be taken as 0.8. Anyway, after that we have used the set underscore x label and set underscore y label methods of axis object to add appropriate labels to the x-axis and the y-axis, the names of the students along the x-axis and the marks of the student along the y-axis. And finally over here I have added the title to the graph, and then I have called the show method. Great. So let me run this. Okay, great. So this is a bar chart showing the marks of these six students: Hadid, Maz, Mujahid, Mohit, Kamal and Jamal. And these are the marks from 0 to let's suppose 90 or 100. Great. So this shows that Hadid has scored maximum marks, around 85, I think, while Jamal has scored minimum marks around I think 35. My dear students, what if we want to plot marks of two subjects? Over here we have plotted marks of one subject only. What if we want to plot the marks of two subjects, English as well as mathematics, let's suppose, for these six students? So let's do that as well. Let me copy this code and use this for plotting more than one charts. And let me create the dataset for the maths marks, list of maths marks, let's suppose 80 and 59, let's suppose again 80 and 60, let's suppose 65 and 60 again. Let's suppose these are the marks of maths of these students. Randomly I have used them, and over here let me use this bar method again, and this time on the x-axis we have students, and along the height we have of course maths, and the width is 0.8. So these are the two changes that I have made. Let me run this. Oops. So what has happened? Actually, what I wanted was I wanted to have two columns over here for Hadid and two columns over here for Maz and so on. But I do have two colors bar over here, but I have a single bar, a portion of it shown in orange and a portion of it is shown in blue, but it is overlapped. From the dataset, if we see Hadid has scored 85 marks in English and 80 marks in math. So these both 80 and 85 marks, these two bar has been overwritten, overlaid. So this is the issue, I think. So we have identified the problem, and that is both the bars of English and maths are being drawn at the same point and with the same width. So what is the solution of this? So we need to keep one bar before the other. So we need to keep this blue bar before the orange bar or vice versa. And maybe for that we need to change the width from 0.8 to maybe 0.4, I think. Let's do this and solve this issue. And for that, let me again copy paste this and move down and adjust the bars so that they should not overlap. And how we can do that? First of all, I just need to create a point over here where I need to draw a bar. Before that, before this point, I need to draw a bar for English marks, let's suppose, and after this, I want to draw a bar for the maths marks, let's suppose. So for that, let me create a list of points. Let me call it index. Index is equal to np dot a range, and I need the index corresponding to the number of students. Okay, fine. So I have the index, and instead of calling having along axis the student's name, I just say x is equal to index. Okay, and over here I also say index, and let me create this like this. So this is at 0 and this is at 0 plus 0.8, let's suppose, and this, if this is at 1, and this will be at 1.8. So I have made 2 points for the English marks and for the math marks. Okay, so let's run it and see the output. Oops. So the problem now is that the width is 0.8, the width is 0.8, so we need to reduce this width to a little bit. Let me say that, let me change this width to 0.3, let's suppose, and let me change this to 0.3, and let me run it again. Okay, so that seems a bit good. 0.3, 0.3, and let me to handle this, let me do something like this. Now this seems better. So we have this 0.3 and this 0.3. This is the width of each bar, and this is the location index, and the next location is index plus 0.3. So this seems good now. Now over here we do not have Hadid, we do have a 0 over here, and this student 0, I think Hadid has scored this many marks in 85 marks in this subject and 80 marks in this subject. Now I don't know what these bars actually mean. So I think we have handled it in the previous session. We need to add a legend for this. So let me add a legend. Let me just write it down over here, plt dot legend. Let me run it again. Oops. So we have a legend, Legend. Sorry for the typo. Okay, so no handles found for this legend. I think we need to add another argument to this bar now, and that is to coordinate this bar with an appropriate legend. So let me add that argument label. We have done it before as well, and let me label it English, and let me label this as maths. Let me run it again. Now this seems good. So we have blue bars representing the English, and the orange bar representing the marks in maths. So these are the students, and now next thing what I want to do is, along the x-axis I am not getting the names of the students. Rather, matplotlib has is setting the x sticks to the default values of this array index, having these values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And to solve this issue, we can use the xsticks method of pyplot. So let me use that. Let me do this before this title. And let me say plt dot xsticks. Ticks is equal to let me say 0.15, half of that. Label is equal to, this is the list of the students, and let me give a color to this as well. So I have mentioned the points, the values. This students is this list. The values will be Hadid, Maaz, Mujahid, Mohit, Kamal and Jamal, and the color optionally I have given that. Great. So I think we have successfully made a good bar chart showing the English and mathematics marks of these six students out of 100. I hope this makes sense to you all. And now the question is, what if we have instead of six students we have 20 students? In such a scenario, the vertical bar graph might not work, as we have limited space in the horizontal direction. So the solution is to use a horizontal bar graph instead of this vertical bar graph. So let's see that, yes, we have to draw a horizontal bar graph as well. Let me do a copy paste again. So this is the same code that we have seen above. So the only difference is that instead of using the ax.bar method, I will be using the ax.bar-h method, that is horizontal bars. And if you see the help of this bar-h method, you will see that we need to pass two required arguments, that is y and the width. Instead of x, we will pass y, and instead of height, we will pass width this time. Okay, so do see the detail. For the time being, I just say that over here I need to keep y, and instead of giving the English marks list to height, I pass it to width, same as over here, dth width, and of course this time the height will be 0.3 and the labels remains the same. So this is the only difference that I have done. Let me run it and you see. So this is the width now, which has the argument height 0.3. So 0.3 is the height of this bar, and the width is English marks and the width is math marks, and over here we have the y. Great, so this seems good. However, over here if you see, the names of students are coming up over here. The names of students should now come up over here. Instead of along the x-axis, it should come along the y-axis. So let me change the set x labels to marks of students, and over here we have names of students. Let me run it again. Now this is good. Over here we have marks of students, and over here we have names of students, but still we do not have the appropriate ticks over here. So instead of using x ticks, let me say the y ticks. Index is equal to this, and the labels is equal to students, and the color is equal to G. So over here we have the name of the students now. Great. So this is a change. So names of students and the marks of students. Once again, Hadid is the student, and these are the two marks, the values, the length of the bar representing the value. In English we have probably 85 marks, and in math we have 80 marks. Great. So this is what the horizontal bar is. So my dear students, we have successfully learned as how to create a vertical as well as horizontal bar chart. And in this scenario, if there are more than 6 students, the graph will simply grow vertically downwards, and you will not face any issue in visualizing the bars of all the students. So far, so good. Okay, now let's practice what we have learned on our real life dataset. The dataset is the Stack Overflow annual developer survey. Probably in one of our previous sessions we have discussed this as well. Please do visit this link. Just download the dataset from here or you can download it from the course repository. Right now it is uh, residing inside the datasets directory of the current working directory. Let me use the read underscore CSV method of pandas to read this dataset inside a data frame. My dear students, I have downloaded this dataset from here, and I have tailored it a little bit uh, to meet our needs. So it has double eight three rows and around 10 columns. The actual dataset do have a lot of more columns. So I have kept them simple over here, just 10. Okay. So let me just quickly touch upon all these columns. So this is the respondent ID, which is the random ID of the person who filled this survey form. This main branch column is a text column that best describes the person who is filling this form. So this respondent had said that I am a student who is learning to code, and this respondent had said that I am a developer by profession, and so on. This hobbyist column answered the question whether the person is coding as hobby or not. This country column specifies the country the person belongs to. This years code specifies the years the person is coding, and this converted comp is the salary column. Uh, this language worked with, this is a column that contains semicolon separated languages that the person who has entered this form, filled this form, has been working with. And the social media column specifies the social media site which this person uses the most. And finally, we have the age and the gender. Well, my dear students, do note these NaN values under different columns, and one of the reasons that of these NaN values can be that the person filling the form has left it blank, so we have NaN over here. Okay, so this is a brief description about this data set. And what we want to do with this data set is that we want to create a bar chart for, let's suppose, the most popular language as mentioned under this column. Uh, and for this, we need to do a little bit of programming, I think, because the data is not readily available to us for plotting. First thing is that we need to have a list of unique programming languages. The programming languages like JavaScript, Python, CSS, HTML, C++, C Sharp, and so on. We need to have a unique list of programming languages that are coming under this column so that we can plot it. And next, we need to have another list containing the count of languages that each respondent said that he or she has worked with. So we need a count of that as well. Okay, so let's check out the NaN values first. df.info. So this is a method using which you can check out the NaN values. So out of 883 records, we have 87569 records which are non-null. So 88883 minus 87569, I think it is roughly around 1300. So 1300 records under this column are having NaN values. And we do have NaN values under other columns as well. So one of the easiest way that we learned in our previous session to handle the NaN values is to drop the NaN values. df.drop NA. So this is the method that is used to drop this. You see, we do not have NaN values, and we have 50763 rows instead of 88883 rows. So let me say that df1 is equal to this. So we have now our df1. Let me check out df1.info. And you see we have 50763 total entries, and we have 50763 rows under languages worked with, and for the rest as well. So we do not have any null values in this data frame now anymore. Great. So this is done. And let me just get this column for which we want to work with languages is equal to df1 and languages worked with. Check out. Okay, great. So we have got a series object. So this is a series object, the column. The missing IDs over here are for the rows that are dropped due to NaN values. And note every record has a semicolon separated language name. Okay. That the respondent of this survey form has worked with. And from this column, we need to generate two lists. A list containing the list of unique programming languages names, and another list containing the count of languages that each respondent said that he or she has worked with. There can be different ways of doing this. Let me use the counter module from the collections package to perform this task. If you have not done so, let me just quickly tell you what the counter module does. And for that, let me say from collections import counter, and let me say my list is equal to, let's say, C, and let me say HTML, and let me add Python as well, and let me say Java as well. So I have a list now that contains these four languages, and let me say my CTR is equal to counter object constructor, and I'm passing it my list, and let me show you this counter. Okay, so this is a counter object now that contains a dictionary. And this dictionary is having the language names as the keys, and the count of that language as values. That is the number of times that language has appeared in the list is coming up as a value over here. Let me update this counter, myctr dot update, and let me say, let's suppose Python again, and let me say C again. So I have added these two languages in it. Let me check out the myctr. You can see the value corresponding to the Python is 2, and the value corresponding to the C programming language is 2. Let me do it again, and this time let me say Python and HTML, and run it. You see now we have the value 3 for Python, and sorry for this. Okay, great. So we have the value 3 for Python and 2 for HTML instead of 1, and we have C for 2. I hope you have a fair idea of how this counter works. So I think this will help us find our solution. Once again, languages. So what we need to do is we need to find out the unique language names, and we need to have a count of these, and for that I need to enter in a loop. Let's suppose for language in languages. So this is the list which I want to iterate upon, and let me just for the time being say print language dot split, and let me just split it based on this value this. Okay, great. So I have got what? I have got a list. For every value over here, I have got a comma separated list. Instead of this semicolon, we have a separate value over here. And great. Let me just copy this and paste this over here. And instead of using this, I just say what? Instead of printing this, let me say myctr dot update. And okay, so this is what I want to do, and let me create the myCTR variable again. myCTR is equal to counter. So I have created an empty counter and I have updating it. I think this should do the job. Let's check out. Great. So you see we have again a dictionary object. So HTML, CSS coming up 32242 times, C coming up 7885 times. So these are the unique list of all the languages, around 28 languages, and these are the number of times these languages have appeared under this languages worked with column. I hope this makes sense to you all. So now the next task is very simple. We have the languages names, we have their count, we just need to plot. And for that, let me just say, uh, let me cast it to a dictionary and let me assign it to my dict. And let me say my dict dot let's get the keys and receive it in languages and cast it to list. Fine. And let me find out the this count in, let's suppose, popularity. Popularity is equal to, let's suppose, my dict dot values. Great. And let me cast this to list again. Okay, so great. Let me show you languages. Great. So these are the languages, 28 languages, I think. And let me show you the other list, popularity. So this is a count. So we have the list of languages, we have the list of the count, so we can plot the graph now. So it should not be a problem for us now. Let me say, let's suppose figure is equal to plt dot figure, and let me say ax is equal to figure dot add underscore subplot subplot, and let me say ax dot bar horizontal y is equal to age languages, and width is equal to popularity. So I think this should work. Okay, so great. So we have horizontal bar graph having all the languages along the y-axis and their popularity count along the y-axis. So this is a very basic graph. Seems great. However, these are a little bit overcrowded. Let me set the shape, the size of the figure, fig size. Let me say fixed size is equal to 10 comma 10. Let me say 10 comma 10. Okay, so this seems fine. This is good. So I think the job is done. So over here you can see the JavaScript is the most popular language as per this survey. We do have Python, and the value for Python is over 20,000. Okay, great, not bad. Great. My dear students, these bars can be stacked as well. Stacking the bars is a useful feature that allows us to stack multiple bars on top of another. Please do explore this at your own. You can do that by using the bottom argument of this bar method. And let me move ahead and talk about the scatter plot. Uh, Scatter plots are great when you want to show the relationship between two sets of values and see if they are correlated. So let me start with a very basic example whose code is shown over here. Very basic scatter plot. Uh, what I have done is I have created two lists of 20 random values ranging from 0 to 99. Then I have created a figure object and an axis object, and over that I have called the scatter method. Well, my dear students, the scatter method, get help about the scatter method. The scatter method is a method that is used to create a scatter plot. Okay. And the two required arguments are list1 and list2, and these are the two lists, random values of the list. Great. Uh, and over here I am just using the X labels and Y labels, and then I'm adding the title and so on. So this is quite simple. Let me run it and see how this scatter method has created a scatter plot based on these two lists of random values. Great. You see these are the 20 random values. We have the list 1 over here, list 2 over here, and this is the title, that is a scatter plot. My dear students, as I have already said before, that the scatter plots are really nice for seeing different trends or maybe outliers. But since the data that we have created over here is random, so we don't really see any trends over here. And so if we do not see any trends over here, this means that there is no correlation between these two lists, list 1 and list 2. And the data is displayed as a collection of points, each point having value of one variable specifying the position on the horizontal axis, and the value of the other variable specifying the position on the vertical axis. Okay, so great. Uh, Let us make some basic customization of this scatter plot. If you have understood the basics, let me copy this and let me paste it over here. And let me show you this L1 and L2 before proceeding. So 5522, these are the 2 points, 5522, 55 roughly over here, and 22 is something over here. So this is the point 5522. 55 and 22. So these are the points. Please do relate this. Let me customize. Let's first change the sizes of these dots over here. And we can change the sizes by passing an argument to this scatter method. S is equal to, let's suppose, 100. And let me run it. Oh, so these are bigger markers now. Great. And let me change the marker style as well. We have done this before as well in the previous session. And let me say marker is equal to, let's suppose, X, capital X. So we have the X's. We can have O's. So we can have asterisks and so on. There are many styles. We can also change the color as well. Let me change the color to, let's suppose green. Let me change the color to, let's suppose, black. Let me change the color to orange. So great. So we can change the color as well. And we can add edges as well to these markers, as over here they do not have the edges. So let me say that we want to have our edge color, EDGE color is equal to, let's suppose, black. And let me say that I want to have a line width of 2. So we have this. And we can add a value of alpha as well. Let me add it 0.5. Great. So this will make it a bit transparent. And one more thing that we can do is with scatterplot is that these marker styles, these colors and these sizes can actually be on a per mark basis rather than applying them to all of the marks. Let me try to do that as well. And for that, I think let's see another dataset. And let me read it, pd.read underscore CSV. And this dataset is the houses dataset. So, and that resides in houses data.csv, I think. Okay, so let me receive it in df. And let me df let me show it completely. Okay, great. So this is the dataset now. My dear students, this dataset is also available in our GitHub course repository, and you can find it out in the current working directory datasets. This dataset contains three columns and 11 rows, and each row or record represent a data related to a house. Well, this X column over here represent the distance of the house in kilometers from our location X. This column Y represents the distance of the house in kilometers from some location Y, and this is the price. And this is the price column, the price of the house. Let's suppose in millions of Pakistan rupees. And suppose that given this data set, we want to find a relationship between the price of these houses with respect to the location. That is, its distance from the X location and the Y location. Okay, let's start by plotting the location of these 11 houses by using a simple scatter plot. Let me say that X is equal to, let me take the value X in X, and let me say Y is equal to data frame. Let me take the value Y, and let me say plt dot scatter, and let me pass X and Y to this, and let me say plt dot show. I think this will make the graph. Yes. So we have the graph. So this scatter plot shows 11 scattered points: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. 11 scattered points. These are the 11 houses. This house is 1 kilometer away from location X and 2 kilometer away from location Y. And similarly, this house over here is 9 kilometer away from X and 12 kilometer away from Y. Well, this information is not very apparent from this graph. So let me add some X labels and the Y labels to this. Let me copy this. Let me paste this over here, and let me say that plt.x label, and let's say that distance to place X, and let me say plt.y label, and this is distance to place Y, let's suppose. And let me give a title to this graph, and that is price of houses in different locations. Okay, so let's run it. Now this is a bit better. Distance to place X, distance to place Y, the title. Sorry for this typo. Price. So this makes sense more now. Okay, now let's suppose that I want to change the size of these houses or markers as per the price of the house. That is, I just want that more is the price of the house, the bigger should be its corresponding marker. And for this, we can use the attribute of the scatter method. Let me copy this and let me paste this over here and use the attribute S over here. S is equal to, let's suppose, 200. So size is equal to 200. Let me run it. So it has increased the size of all the markers, while I just want to increase the size of the markers corresponding to its price. So what I need to do is I need to pass a list over here, list of prices. So let me get the list of prices as let's suppose list of price or sizes is equal to, and let me say that this is price, and let me typecast it to int. Okay, and let me pass this sizes over here. Now I think that our thing will be done. This is great. So what is over here is this is the house having the maximum price, probably this one and this one, 1 and 2. So let's check out from the data set. Yes, 900, and this 5 1 is 800, and this 5 and 1 is 800. So and this one is having the smallest size, being farthest from the location X and location Y, has the minimum price. So since it has the minimum price, so it has the minimum size. So it makes sense. So we can say that now in this graph, the size of the markers for the house close to X and Y location is large as compared to the one which is away. Great. Let's do one more customization to this scatter chart. And well, right now all the markers are of the same color. Let's change the color of each marker as per the size of the marker or the price of the house. Uh, and for that, let me say that S dot sizes. Other than this, I just say that the the colors should be as per the sizes. So let me say that colors is equal to sizes. Let me keep it simple and same, and C is equal to colors. The C argument can be passed a list of colors or maybe numbers to be mapped onto the colors. So these are the different colors that will be mapped over here. Great. So this is also good. Let me add an alpha value as well over here is equal to 0.5, let's suppose. So they have made it opaque, and let me copy paste just some data from here, and that is this edge color and this. Okay, so let me put a comma over here and add edge color black and this to true. So this is more better now. Great. So this is great. And let me add one more thing. Let me add a color bar with this graph. So let's add a color bar after this scatter. I just add these two lines. This color bar C bar is equal to, let's suppose, plt dot color bar. This is the method, and C bar dot set underscore label. Let me set the label to it, and that label is the price of the house. And let me run it. You see we have a color bar over here setting the price of the house. The yellow, closer to yellow is 900. Closer to yellow is 900, and over here we have around 100. Great. So that is really great. This bar actually maps the price of each house to a color. You can note that this yellow marker house has a price of 900, and this has a price of around 100. Great. My dear friends, I have tried my best in today's session to make you understand the nitty-gritties of the horizontal as well as the vertical bar graph, as well as the scatter graph. Uh, I hope you will be able to apply this knowledge whenever you need to plot your data for visualization and communicating your results with the clients. And let me move up over here. Yes, over here. So that is all for today's session. Inshallah ta'ala, we will continue our journey for learning Python programming for data scientists in our next session. And see you in the data visualization part 3. I hope today's session was informative for you all. If you have liked it, please subscribe my YouTube channel and share it with your friends. I wish you all the best. Happy learning, and Allah Hafiz.